Imagine the largest country in Europe suddenly vanishing from the map overnight. No natural disaster, no alien invasion, just pure political genius and military might. This is the story of how Russia erased an empire that once ruled from the Baltic to the Black Sea. The year was 1772, and Europe was about to witness one of history's most calculated takedowns. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth wasn't just any nation, it was a superpower. For centuries, it had been the largest state in Europe, controlling modern-day Poland, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, and parts of Russia itself. But here's what makes this story absolutely insane. The Commonwealth had a fatal flaw built right into its DNA. While other nations were centralizing power, Poland had created something called the Golden Liberty, a system so democratic it was practically suicidal. Any noble could veto any decision. Imagine trying to run a country where one person could shut down everything. Catherine the Great of Russia saw this weakness like a shark smelling blood in the water. She didn't just plan to defeat Poland. She planned to make it destroy itself from within. The Russian Empress was playing 4D chess, while Poland was still figuring out checkers. The first move was brilliant in its simplicity. Russia started bribing Polish nobles to paralyze their parliament. Remember that veto power I mentioned? Russian gold turned it into a weapon of mass destruction. Every time Poland tried to reform, tried to strengthen itself, mysterious vetoes would shut everything down. But Catherine wasn't content with just internal sabotage. She needed Poland to look weak on the international stage, so she manufactured a crisis. In 1768, she created a fake religious conflict, claiming Polish Catholics were persecuting Orthodox Christians. It was complete propaganda, but it gave her the excuse she needed. Russian troops poured into Poland under the guise of protecting religious minorities. The Polish army, already weakened by political chaos, couldn't mount an effective resistance. But here's the twisted genius part. Russia made it look like they were the good guys, just helping restore order. The Poles weren't stupid. They realized what was happening and formed the Confederation of Bar in 1768 to resist Russian influence. These were genuine patriots fighting for their country's independence. But Catherine had already poisoned the well too deeply. While Polish Confederates fought desperately against Russian forces, Catherine was orchestrating an even more devastating move behind the scenes. She was secretly negotiating with Frederick the Great of Prussia and Empress Maria Theresa of Austria. The three powers were planning to carve up Poland like a Thanksgiving turkey. In 1772, the unthinkable happened. The first partition of Poland was announced. Russia, Prussia, and Austria simply declared they were taking chunks of Polish territory. Not through conquest, not through war. They just decided Poland was too weak to stop them. And they were right. Russia grabbed the eastern territories, including most of modern-day Belarus and parts of Ukraine. Prussia took western regions, including crucial Baltic ports. Austria seized the south. In one diplomatic stroke, Poland lost about 30% of its territory and 35% of its population. But the most humiliating part, the remaining Polish government was forced to ratify this partition themselves. Russian diplomats literally made Polish representatives sign papers agreeing to their own dismemberment. It was like forcing someone to write their own obituary. You'd think this would be the end, but Catherine was just getting started. She installed her former lover, Stanisław August Poniatowski, as Poland's puppet king. This guy was so under Russian control that he couldn't make major decisions without asking St. Petersburg first. The Poles tried to fight back. In 1791, they created Europe's first modern constitution, a document that would have transformed their chaotic system into a proper constitutional monarchy. It was actually brilliant, addressing every weakness that Russia had exploited. Catherine's response was swift and brutal. She branded the new constitution as Jacobin, linking it to the French Revolution that terrified every European monarch. Then she invaded again in 1792, this time with a larger army and a more decisive goal: total control. The Polish forces, led by heroes like Tadeusz Kościuszko, who had fought in the American Revolution, mounted a desperate resistance. The 1794 Kościuszko uprising saw ordinary citizens fighting with farming tools against professional Russian soldiers. Warsaw civilians fought like lions, but courage couldn't overcome such overwhelming odds. After crushing the uprising, Catherine orchestrated the Second Partition in 1793. Russia and Prussia took even more territory. Poland was now reduced to a rump state, barely a shadow of its former glory. But Catherine still wasn't satisfied. The final blow came in 1795 with the Third Partition. This time, Russia, Prussia, and Austria divided up what was left. Poland-Lithuania, once Europe's largest state, simply ceased to exist. It was erased from the map so completely that the word Poland was banned in some regions. Russia had achieved something unprecedented in European history. They had made an entire nation disappear through a combination of corruption, manipulation, and calculated violence. Catherine had turned Poland's greatest strength, its democratic traditions, into its greatest weakness. The human cost was staggering. Hundreds of thousands of Poles were deported to Siberia. The Polish elite were either killed, exiled, or forced to collaborate. An entire culture was nearly erased as Russian administrators tried to eliminate Polish identity itself. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. Poland didn't stay dead. Despite 123 years of partition, despite multiple attempts to erase Polish culture, the nation eventually rose from the ashes. In 1918, Poland regained independence, proving that you can conquer a country, but you can't kill an idea. Catherine's method became a template for modern imperialism. Instead of direct conquest, you corrupt the target from within. Manufacture crises to justify intervention, then use diplomatic cover to legitimize territorial seizures. Sound familiar? This playbook is still being used today. The fall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth changed the entire balance of European power. Russia emerged as the dominant force in Eastern Europe, a position it maintained for centuries. The partitions created ethnic and religious conflicts that echo through the region even today. What's truly mind-blowing is how completely Russia managed to rewrite the narrative. For generations, Russian historians portrayed the partitions as a liberation, freeing Orthodox, Christians, and oppressed peasants from Polish noble rule. The truth is always more complex than the victor's version of events. The destruction of Poland-Lithuania also eliminated one of Europe's most tolerant societies. The Commonwealth had been a haven for Jews, religious minorities, and political refugees. Its destruction contributed to centuries of persecution and ethnic violence in Eastern Europe. Catherine the Great died in 1796, just 1 year after completing her masterpiece of geopolitical destruction. She had spent nearly her entire reign systematically dismantling a neighbor that posed no real military threat to Russia. It was conquest through corruption, annexation through manipulation. The legacy of Catherine's strategy extends far beyond the 18th century. The techniques she used, bribing local elites, manufacturing ethnic conflicts, using humanitarian intervention as cover for territorial expansion, became standard imperial practice. Modern conflicts often follow this exact pattern. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of this story is how methodical it all was. This wasn't the heat of battle conquest we see in movies. It was a decades-long campaign of systematic political warfare, designed to make the victim complicit in their own destruction. The fall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth proves that sometimes the greatest threats come not from armies at your borders, but from the corruption within your own system. It's a lesson that remains terrifyingly relevant today. If this story of political manipulation and imperial strategy fascinated you as much as it did me, make sure to subscribe to this channel. We dive deep into the hidden histories that shaped our world, and trust me, there are plenty more shocking stories where this came from. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. The past has more surprises than you think. Tell us which country or city you're watching from. See you in the next video. Bye.